Welcome to our Saturday Simulcast, recorded obviously the morning after the Purdue's 30-21 victory over Oregon State, and we'll get Tom and Brian's impressions about the Boilermaker victory. I want to thank the Union Club Hotel for sponsoring our Saturday Simulcast. We appreciate them very much. Tom and I had a good experience on Thursday night with our first Thursday night live, and we appreciate their support as well for that event. Guys, it was important for Purdue to do just what it did, and that's to get that first victory in the books and start this 2021 season off in a positive mode, I should say. And that's in essence what happened. It wasn't perfect by any stretch, but certainly a 9-point win and making some plays at the right time gave Purdue the win. Tom, we'll start with you on your impressions, just in terms of looking back at it, at least with a little bit of separation in terms of what you saw on the field at Ross-Ade Stadium.
Yeah, like you alluded to, Alan, it certainly wasn't pretty, but as we know, this isn't figure skating. There's no style points at this point. You just want to get the W, and that's exactly what Purdue did. I wrote last night too that it's the way you handle adversity in life really defines how you're going to turn out. And that's exactly what Purdue did. It handled adversity well. It got punched in the nose late. The offense did not cash in on some golden opportunities through the first about 3/4 of the game, honestly, guys. And the next thing you know, it goes from a 16-7 lead to a 16-14 lead early in the fourth quarter. I mean, panic could have set in, guys. The offense had to trot back on the field and have some answer for Oregon State because they switched quarterbacks and they had some mojo going offensively. And Purdue needed to respond. And that offense was really sort of spotty, like I said early on, trying to cash in on these opportunities. But the big but here is Purdue responded, right? Jack Plummer trots him back out there, and I call it the Payne-Durham drive, 6 plays. 3 of those plays went to Payne-Durham, which he capped with a 5-yard touchdown catch, 23-14 Purdue. Then, of course, Oregon State answers. But then the offense trots right back out there, guys, and seals the game. Again, Jack Plummer to Payne-Durham, 50 yards. So, again, I really thought it was a must-win game. Maybe that was some hyperbole on my part. Some people probably certainly agree with that notion or that assessment. Purdue got the must-win. And, we all like to sneak a peek ahead at what's around the corner. We got UConn next. UConn's an abomination. You go to Notre Dame, guys, and you got Illinois. I mean, Illinois, fellas.
What a difference.
Antonio. And then Minnesota. They're the best running back in the Big Ten. Muhammad Ibrahim may not even play. I haven't heard any final thoughts on his injury, but again, Minnesota may be without Ibrahim. I'm looking far ahead here, guys. But long story short, Purdue got the win Saturday night. It wasn't pretty, but you know what? Sometimes to have a gut check win like this early on, where it's not a 50-0 game, can really serve your team well moving forward.
Yeah, we'll get into UConn. Might be the worst. Is the worst team in the FBS. I don't think you can argue that point. Purdue will be a 4-touchdown favorite, I think. Come.
Yeah, but the home field advantage in Stores is going to be considerable. There's going to be a bunch of cows at the game,
especially since the game will be played in Hartford. That's right. So
that's right. Yeah, Hartford. My bad.
No. I think Stores, it would be really hard in Stores, but in Hartford, it'll be different. Brian, you wrote about just the fact that this kind of went as promised. I think that's an interesting way of looking at things that we were told they wanted to change. For the most part, they did. The defense was more aggressive, made some plays. Certainly, Jack Plummer got better as the game went on, and Jeff Brom just maybe rediscovered his mojo as a play caller. Purdue took some chances. They had some bad luck on a fake field goal, or at least a great play really by an Oregon State defender on the interception there. But he had the guts to make a call. And I thought one thing that was interesting in postgame, at least on the radio portion, is Jeff Brom said, on the pass to Durham, that the one that sealed the game, he goes, well, I was really nervous that we'd be really kind of criticized if it didn't work. But again, a confidence level, it did work, and the Boilermakers got the job done. But did this all, now looking at it through the lens of a few hours later, still all go to Hoyle as you alluded to last night?
I don't know who would have criticized him. I wouldn't have. I mean, I can only speak for myself. But
I thought it was interesting he said that, though, because I just think it's
a little bit of think that, on 3rd and 2 in a situation like that, if you just run between the tackles and count on, your offensive front to dominate the line of scrimmage, that's not going to happen more than that's probably going to happen with this personnel. I thought that was the perfect play call, actually. I thought the goal line call to Durham also on that other 3rd down was the perfect call. I thought he did an exceptional job in the 4th quarter with his play calling. And I think there was a question in there you asked me somewhere.
Well, just yeah, you said things went as expected. Things were promised.
No. I just, in the offseason, coaches say a lot of stuff that, sometimes they don't mean, and they don't deliver on. We're going to play a lot of guys. We're going to be more up tempo in basketball. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Everything, Purdue told us they were going to be, they're going to aspire to be this year, on both sides of the ball, they were. I thought Jeff Brom called an offense to win the game. I thought he was more aggressive. He was more creative. He was more kind of, you only live once in his sort of approach offensively for the most part. I thought the defense was everything the defense was advertised to be. I thought they brought a lot of different pressures. I thought they trusted their defensive backs to play a fair amount of man-to-man. They weaponized George Karlaftis to the fullest extent, using him all over the place, kind of cutting him loose. They put their guys in positions to succeed more than I think they did last year. I thought they just did a really good job being really aggressive and being really creative. Obviously, they gave up 3 big plays that accounted for basically all of Oregon State's scoring, but that's the cost of doing business this year. You trade some big plays for Jalen Graham's strip sack, for them not being able to block George Karlaftis, for Cam Allen's interception, things like that. If you make as many big plays as you give up, and you win the game, especially, that is a win defensively for this Purdue defense this year. I think I was just really impressed with what they did defensively, philosophically. And, there's tape out now. So, they started really well defensively last year too, but now, things change a little bit because, I don't think it's going to matter next weekend against Connecticut, but Notre Dame is going to at least have some tape to study and kind of see what you're doing and things like that. But I thought this was a great first start for Purdue from a defensive perspective.
Yeah, Tom, looking offensively, and the usual suspect, David Bell, was as good as he's always as good as advertised. He just make plays. And I thought he gave Purdue some stability early on, just because things were a little, you had some things that didn't go right early on for Purdue. You get down a touchdown and have some, unsportsmanlike conduct penalty at the wrong time. But it's something calmed this team and got it all moving in the right direction in the second half. And, and again, there were some dicey moments in the 4th quarter still, but all that coming through at the end made a huge difference of where this team is after its first win.
Yeah, Jack Plummer, guys, in the 4th quarter hit 8 of his 9 passes for 119 yards and, of course, the 2 touchdowns. Like I alluded to off the top, really delivering it in the money quarter when reputations are made. The game was in peril. You could have buckled. You could have folded. But, again, Plummer rose and played his best football of the night in that 4th and so-important quarter for Purdue. So, again, that was a great sign for a guy who maybe is maturing into the type of quarterback we all thought he could be. Brian talked about what the team wanted to get better at, what it talked about all off season. And one of those things, of course, is running the football, right? We all know the importance, the resources that have been poured into that for Purdue in the winter and the spring. You look at the final numbers, fellas. Again, this isn't 1995 Nebraska. And Jeff Brom admitted after the game, we're probably never going to lead the Big Ten in rushing. We all understand that. We all know Purdue's got to have some semblance of a ground game to keep offense, defenses off balance. And he seemed generally pleased, guys, with how they ran the ball. 33 carries, 88 yards. The average just 2.7 yards a carry. Xander Horvath's numbers were decent. 21 carries, 81 yards. Of course, the touchdown at 3.9 yards per tote. So, again, I think they were effective enough running the ball. There was that one horrendous drive, I think, in the third quarter where they got first and goal at the 5, tried to run it 3 times, came up empty, and had to settle for a field goal. And I tell you what, just starting to watch this game, or while we're watching the game, there were some issues blocking. And, later in the game, then they brought in Jack Kravac often, he's a tight end, but they really brought him to help pass protect and run block too. So they tried to get things buttoned up from a blocking standpoint by playing him a little bit more. So again, they ran enough to keep those Beavers off balance. We talked about Plummer in the fourth quarter, and Al, you talked about David Bell. Of course, he led all the Boilers with 8 catches, averaged almost 17 yards a catch. He was targeted 12 times, guys. And really, he had some big plays on this night. So plenty of weapons, 7 Boilers caught passes. And I think, again, there's a lot to build on here. And it's an offense that, doesn't have a ton of playmakers. But remember, TJ Sheffield wasn't on the field. I think once they get him back, that'll give this offense a little bit more zip, I think, but with having him in the slot.
Yeah, Milton Wright obviously had a drop and didn't get in the offense as we would expect. I expect that to change as time goes on. Brian, you look also special teams. Mitchell Finneran hits a 48-yard field goal. I don't know. We'll do some ciphering on that one to see. I don't know if on the first field goal tip any Purdue kicker's ever done that from that distance, but he really did a good job. And Jack Ansel was more than serviceable at punter. Did a good job as well. His average wasn't big. I was debating that. Really, was he good? And you guys are both.
It was great.
Give me compelling reasons to say that he was, and I'll take your word there. But again, that phase of the game, short of a couple things early on, that was an important step in the right direction in terms of the way the special teams play.
Yeah, that's an area of the game where Purdue just has to be solid. Just don't beat yourself, basically. And I think they were more than solid yesterday in that first game. I think Mitchell Finneran was a revelation. I think, you would have preferred to not have to settle for field goals, but knowing that, getting reason to believe in week 1 that if you settle for field goals, you're going to get those field goals. I think that's a pretty big deal. And, the field position game, in the punting game, I think, I always say in recruiting that you got to be really careful giving a $400,000 scholarship or whatever it is to a guy to do something he's never done in a game before. And that's sort of the deal with Jack Ansel. He's never punted in an American college football game, obviously. Neither had Brooks Cormier. I don't think he even punted in a high school game prior to Purdue, taking him. But he was phenomenal, I thought. He was just outstanding. Yeah. And, I understand this was just the first game, and I don't think Mitchell Finneran's going to make 100% of his field goals for the year, and I don't know if Jack Ansel's going to be perfect this season like he was pretty close to being perfect in week 1. But if those are just things you don't have to worry about, I think that's a huge win for Purdue this year, because you came into this year you came out of last year really having to worry about that stuff. And that's some of the best news of this game. That's probably not top of mind for a lot of people, because everybody's fixated on, the offense and the new defense and all of that stuff. And for good reason, because those two things are really important. But the special teams just being as low maintenance as possible and as little cause for consternation as possible is one of the biggest stories of the night. That's probably getting underplayed a little bit.
Yeah. And an important thing, again, just in terms of process and how this football team may develop. All right, we'll take in terms of what looking at. I guess one of the guys I want to talk about, you kind of both have mentioned Jalen Graham. I thought he was, maybe the poster person for some improvement on the defense. Just in Brian, and you both have written about how putting guys in the right position to make plays. It seemed like they really showcased him, and he made plays last night. And I thought he was a real difference maker. I guess I'll let you guys both comment on him, and then we'll get to a little bit about what we saw in the college football landscape.
Yeah, real quick, back to special teams. And also, guys, the coverage units. They talked about using more starters there. We definitely saw that with guys like Jalen Graham and Cam Allen out there. Jalen Alexander as well, Xander Horvath. So I saw a lot of starters on special teams. Oregon State had, I think, 2 kickoff returns for 32 yards, 16 yards per return, no punt returns either. So again, they were really buttoned up there in coverage and their execution on returns. Yeah, Alan, boy, number 6, my goodness. They brought him off the edge quite often. He didn't drop into coverage as much as he was really hovering around that line of scrimmage and coming on run blitzes, coming on pass blitzes. Final stats show Jalen Graham was Purdue's number 1 tackler Saturday night with 6 stops. He had a sack and TFL, and guys, he broke up 3 passes. So he was all over the field. The moment I saw this guy back in, I think, February of 2019, when he arrived early from Detroit, he looked like a freak then. And he's only gotten better. And we kind of got flashes of what he could be the first couple of years. It looks like maybe it's all going to come together now for number 6. And that's exciting for this defense. I think Brian, at one point in the preseason, opined that, does that linebacker unit have a star? And do they have a Marcus Bailey, a Jawan Bentley kind of a guy, even a TJ McCullum? And I think that was a question. I think Jalen Graham may answer that this year. He may be that next star linebacker every defense needs, which the Purdue defense needs for sure. So, yeah, what a special, freaky talent. And I look for Purdue to take full advantage of him and just get him in space and let him chase the football and tap into that vast reserve of athletic ability that he has.
Yeah. Brian, you look at that and what he brings and into the scheme of the defense. Kieran Douglas also was productive last night, 5 tackles as well. But again, it's going to take that type of effort, I would think, for this defense to be effective enough to slow people down throughout the course of this season.
Yeah, I want to talk more about Jalen Graham because I think there's a little bit of added significance to him. I might be manufacturing a storyline here. I don't know, but I wrote a few weeks back that I thought Jalen Graham was going to be a good case study for this new defensive staff, just because this is a guy who I think pound for pound is one of your best athletes, one of your most promising, talented football players. But for 2 years, he's been a little bit of a man without a country here, where he's been playing this sort of hybrid safety linebacker role. And I don't think he's been a physical enough player around the line of scrimmage to really do the linebacker part of it well enough. And I don't know if he's been great enough in coverage to be that sort of natural kind of defensive back, but he's just such a damn good athlete, so tall and so long and so athletic that you got to get something out of guys like that. At Purdue, when you have elite athleticism, you got to get something out of it. You can't have those guys blending in because you don't have all that many of them generally. Now, Purdue's got a fair amount of them on this team, but that doesn't mean they don't have to maximize them. And I think it was a good case study for this defensive staff to find a place for him, to get him comfortable in a role and get more out of him. And I think he was phenomenal yesterday. He was really good in coverage. He looked like a natural coming off the edge there on a lot of those blitzes. They're going to let him be aggressive. That strip sack, I thought, was one of the biggest plays of the game. I know Purdue didn't even recover the ball, but it was one of those kind of statement plays for that defense that, hey, we're going to be really hard to play against tonight. And I just thought he did a really good job in coverage. That breakup he had in the fourth quarter was another one of the biggest defensive plays of the game. He made an impact. He made a real impact. And as I said before, when you have really high-level athletes on your team at Purdue, especially, you have to get impact out of them. And I thought he did a really, really good job in that first game. And, I think that when they're asking you to do a lot of different things, as Purdue is, you need to have a really good athlete to be able to do that. We've seen that over the years with Purdue, where they've put guys in roles where they have to do a lot of different things, and they haven't been a good enough athlete to do it. I'm thinking of the last coaching staff and Jalen Robinson, when they asked him at times to drop into coverage at that Leo position and things like that. It just didn't work. You got to have a guy who's capable physically of doing a lot of different things. And Jalen Graham has all the physical ability in the world. And I thought Purdue maximized it yesterday. And if Purdue's able to maximize that for the rest of the season, they're going to have a really great player on their hands this year.
Hey, real quick, guys, real quick. Speaking of great defensive plays, Brian, how about the play of the game defensively, Corey Trice?
It was a hell of a play.
4th and 1, 4th and 2. You know,
that was an NFL play. And
Oregon State,
what
Oregon is driving, and Oregon State goes deep on 4th and 1, 4th and 2. Trice breaks it up. He's not suckered on this deep pass at all. Purdue takes over the ball, bam, goes down. That was a Payne Durham drive that followed that. We called 3 passes. That may have been the defensive play of the game, guys. Corey Trice, we talked about him. Brian talked about the freakiness of Jalen Graham. My gosh, you stand next to a guy like Corey Trice, 6'3", 215-pound cornerback. He looks like an NFL cornerback. He may be an NFL cornerback. That was a huge money play. He's
what the NFL is looking for right now, those giant corners to match up with those 6'5" Megatrons that are all kind of littering the league at wide receiver right now. In terms of defense at all levels of college football, at all levels of football right now, we talk about size, we talk about strength, we talk about athleticism, but length is so important. Length. Jalen Graham is a pterodactyl. Corey Trice is a freaking pterodactyl. And when you have guys like that in pass coverage, those passing windows get a little bit smaller. And, it's the Al Pacino spiel from Any Given Sunday about, football is about the 6 inches in front of your face. Well, when those 6 inches become 3 inches because the guy guarding you has an extra 3 inches on his wingspan, that's a big deal. That's a really big deal. And I thought on Jalen Graham's breakup and on Corey Trice's breakup, a 6-foot corner doesn't make those plays. A 6-foot defensive player doesn't make those plays, but 6'3" defensive players do make those plays. And I think that is so important. And I think that is just an element in both basketball and football that is just so overlooked in terms of impact. And that's what I got. Important.
It is important. All right. The landscape of college football, of course, we watched a game at 7:00 in Ross-Ade Stadium. There were a lot of games played before, some played after. Just overall impressions. I mean, obviously Indiana getting beat as badly as it did, what might've been a little surprise, Illinois losing to Texas San Antonio. That was a surprise. Penn State pulling one out of the fire at Wisconsin. I know, it may be popular to say right now that the West Division may be a little bit more open, but it's early. But give us your overriding comments, and maybe also UCLA beating LSU is a big win. Just in terms of what we saw in Week 1, give me your 1 minute view. Now, you're limited to 1 minute. That's it, and I got to cut you off. So go ahead, Tom.
Hey, why not ruin the Big Ten West? I mean, that's a big overstatement there, but you went down the roll call there: Minnesota, Wisconsin, Nebraska, Illinois, Northwestern. I mean, Iowa's Iowa, but Jeff Brom's 3-1 against Iowa. So it could be a fun, interesting, wide open West Division. Nationally, we saw a great deal of upsets. The Pac-12 took it on the chin. Washington lost to Montana. Yeah. Cal lost to Nevada. Big one for UCLA. The SEC, we saw the Clemson, Georgia game. Big win for the Bulldogs. Maybe this is the year, guys. They win that first national title since Herschel Walker in 1980. And, again, I've said it before. I never want to overstate positively or negatively what we see this first weekend. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I've looked like such a fool so many times. I got a lot more opportunities to look like a fool, too, in the future. But you make overstatements, grand proclamations after one weekend, you look like an idiot the next week, because these scripts flip awfully quickly here from week to week, especially from week 1 to week 2. So enjoy what we've seen so far. That's what makes the sport so much fun, guys, is the predictability. Some of these other sports, there's just no surprise or excitement to it. But college football has got the beauty of the crazy roller coaster ride. And the Big Ten West, to circle back, Alan, the Big Ten West, hey, man, I tell you what, just stay buckled up, because it's a division that I don't think has a tightened program right now. Like I said, I know it's early, but there certainly is an Ohio State in that division. We all know that.
Brian, anything to add to the fray there?
You said 1 minute, so
yeah.
1 minute.
That's good.
The Big Ten East is better than the Big Ten West, but we knew this already. The first couple of weeks of the season have not been kind to the Big Ten West. Nebraska remains Nebraska.
Michigan State also beating Northwestern. I forgot to mention that one too.
Right.
That was...
Minnesota, I thought, put up a fight against Ohio State, but I think that was always kind of a deal where they just rode that first half energy, and that was never going to last. Iowa was the big winner in these first couple weeks in terms of the Big Ten West. Iowa and Purdue. That was a good win for Iowa. Now, in Indiana's defense, you come out with really high expectations. You go to a place like Iowa, and that's no picnic. I didn't think Northwestern was any good. I think this is a damn it.
Close it up.
I mean, there are going to be opportunities there for Purdue to win some games. Purdue's got to get a lot better than it was in week one, because for as much as we're extolling Purdue's outstanding, maybe not its overall performance, but it's finding a way to win and all of that stuff. It does have to get better, because it walked a very fine line for a while there in a game that it easily could have been up 3 touchdowns in at a variety of points of time. I think that's something we ought to continue to make mention of here, that as much positive as came out of this week one game, they put themselves in some tough positions by not cashing in on a lot of good opportunities.
Right.
Yes.
And I would be remiss also, I'll do an appendix question here just about the crowd. 53,000 students were there shoulder to shoulder. That was impressive. The weather may have kept some of the season ticket holders away, and maybe have clapped it. There were some gaps there, at least from my view, but really an impressive crowd. And now you get 20 seconds to comment on that, Tom.
That was nice.
Yeah.
But from my perch next to the great Brian Neubert last night, sitting to my left, where I would look to that north end zone, that horseshoe, it filled in, guys.
Yep.
It looked pretty full. I mean, I stood up and tried to look below me, but I didn't get a good vantage point from right below the press box. But you always have that upper corner there of the I guess the east side that's a little empty. But by and large, it looked like a nice crowd. And I know I've heard that the Wisconsin game's supposed to sell out. This is what Purdue needed too, right, guys? I mean, some energy, some excitement, and maybe this will sell some more tickets.
Yep, Illinois and Minnesota. I know they got a few left for that, but that's too. Brian, the last get the last word on the crowd.
Purdue needed positive stuff to happen in this first game. This was, I mean, I don't think it's hyperbole to call this a must win. You had these fans who weren't at the games last year, who have been waiting, for this experience to return. They're excited. I could just tell by the tone of our message boards too that people are pretty excited. Had you lost this game yesterday, no matter what the circumstances were, that could have gone the other way on you. Excitement can turn into angst very, very quickly. And I think had Purdue not gotten this one, I think, from a hearts and minds perspective, they would have been scattering left and right. They would have been jumping off the ship left and right. But I think, Purdue got a win it needed. It did so in captivating fashion. I think it reestablished itself as that, fun, exciting program that people kind of missed the last couple of years. And I think Purdue, is sitting in a pretty good spot here, both competitively and from the perspective of its fans being engaged. And I think that is so freaking important.
Yeah, that's the final word, and I think that is all very, very true. So we'll be back next week, probably talking to Tom from his hotel room in the Hartford area after Purdue's. It's a 3:00 Eastern kick against the UConn Huskies. I think that's the start time. And again, I don't think I don't think Purdue will have ever been a bigger road favorite than it will be this week. And that will be an interesting storyline that will develop all week. So have a great week.
Stay out of the parking garages in Hartford. Trust me, from experience.
Yeah,
stay out of the parking garages.
Yeah, you'll have to get
my backstory, my complicated history with the city of Hartford.
Well documented on back in the day. So, all right, guys, have a great rest of your Sunday. We'll have Jeff Brom tomorrow at his usual time, I believe, if it's Labor Day, and we'll be heading into week number 2. And want to thank the Union Club Hotel for its sponsorship of our Saturday Simulcast. We're grateful for them. And a reminder, too, you can subscribe to GoldandBlack.com. Free trials available. Just check out our website as well. So have a great rest of your Sunday, all. And thanks for listening and watching. And we'll see you next week on our Saturday Simulcast.